Hey everybody, welcome to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Arey. Man, I love the MCU. Who can forget so many classic moments like the Avengers uniting for the first time, Tony revealing he's Iron Man,
I am Iron Man.
or the epic airport fight. But there's a few Marvel moments that we don't like to think about, where our expectations were sky high and we left feeling... So here they are, the 10 biggest Marvel Cinematic Universe letdowns. Number 10, Captain America versus the Red Skull. Red Skull is Captain America's #1 arch. Magneto to his Xavier, Luthor to his Superman, Jay-Z to his Kanye, and their fight lasts for like 2 minutes in one movie. Don't get me wrong, I didn't want an overindulgent Super Smash Bros. Fight like Anakin versus Obi-Wan. But I wanted more than a few punches. It also bothers me that Captain America doesn't fight actual Nazis in the movie. Hydra's a group that's too extreme, even for the tenets of National Socialism. All I wanted was to see some Nazis getting punched in the face. There's no need to bring laser guns into the transaction. Okay. Number 9, the final fight between Killmonger and T'Challa in the Black Panther. This is the best MCU origin movie since Iron Man, in my opinion. It was a cultural milestone, record-breaking, sensitive.
You can't let your father's mistakes define who you are.
And has one of the worst climactic fights I have ever seen. Ryan Coogler's action scenes were excellent in Creed, and the earlier waterfall fight was brutal, so our expectations for the climax were sky high. Killmonger and T'Challa are two men bonded by blood but divided by ideas. Their final battle isn't merely physical, it's for the soul of Wakanda. And these highly personal stakes are conveyed by a couple of rubbery CGI cartoons falling down a hole. Their final touching moment makes it easy to forget that a few minutes ago they looked like renderings from Lawnmower Man. Number 8, Thors Quest. I get it, writing an Avengers movie has to be tricky. You have all-powerful heroes like Hulk and Thor who could win every fight, while Hawkeye and Black Widow talk home improvement projects on the side.
Put up some baffling. You can't hear the kids running around. What do you think?
You guys always eat in the kitchen anyway.
No one eats in a dining room.
That's one reason the original Avengers worked. Until the climax, Thor mostly fights his fellow heroes and the Hulk doesn't even want to fight.
I just want to finish my work here.
In Age of Ultron's middle act, the most powerful Avengers have to be occupied, leaving the weaker members to recover the Vision's body and soul. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to recruit the Maximoffs. Banner is grappling with the aftermath of the Hulk's rampage, Iron Man is keeping Ultron from getting the nuclear codes, and Thor drinks space whiskey in a hot tub. In Infinity War, Thor's quest is about leveling up, not furthering his character. Just like in Ultron, he only returns when all hope is lost. But along the way, he doesn't have to sacrifice anything and there's no emotional obstacle to overcome.
I feel your pain. I feel your pain as well.
He should have faced a problem greater than helping Peter Dinklage with an arts and crafts project. Number 7, this scene.
Sorry to hear that Jane dumped you.
She didn't dump me, you know. I dumped her. It's a mutual dumping.
I'm not cool with this scene. I know Natalie Portman wanted out of her Marvel contract, and I know their love story was mostly lived out through expository dialogue.
How was she?
She's quite clever, your mortal.
But come on, kill her off in Age of Ultron or something.
Well, please be my guest.
Like maybe one of the drones kills Jane at the after party, so Thor has a more personal reason to want to see Ultron destroyed. It just seems like a waste to build this character up so she could disappear off screen like so much Tory. Number 6, the Mandarin.
Where's the Mandarin? Where is it?
Whoa, he's here. He's here, but he's not here. He's here, but he's not here. What do you mean? It's complicated. Hey, it's complicated.
Speaking of building characters up, remember this banner in the first Iron Man? These 10 rings were a major bit of foreshadowing of the Mandarin, Iron Man's bejeweled archenemy. Jon Favreau said they considered using the Mandarin in the first film, but decided to build the character up in a later sequel. Then they cast Ben Kingsley, one of the greatest living actors of today, to play an actor playing the Mandarin. Look, I don't 100% hate this idea. I like the commentary. The xenophobic fear is stoked by the media to create more wealth for the corrupt corporate interests, and Ben Kingsley is great as Trevor Slattery.
I never thought people had been hurt. They lied to me.
This is the Mandarin?
I know, it's embarrassing.
Hi, Trevor Slattery.
But I still want to see the Mandarin. Marvel tried to retcon this twist in their short All Hail the King, where Slattery was kidnapped by an actual terrorist called the Mandarin, but this was just fan service and not a plan for an actual movie. But still, if Tony Stark dies and James Rhodes becomes Iron Man, this would be a great place to take the franchise.
Nobody says hack anymore. Give me your login.
War Machine rocks with an X, all caps.
And if Tony dies, hopefully it's handled better than number 5, Quicksilver's death.
Get killed. Walk it off.
All through Age of Ultron, Joss Whedon peppered in hints that Hawkeye was going to die. He got an earlier injury, they introduced a wife and family, this was his one last mission before retirement. It made sense. He's the least powerful Avenger, and it would have sent a signal that threats were escalating. But then Quicksilver got shot with more holes than Elvis's TV set. The problem is, Pietro's death doesn't do much for Age of Ultron's story. Wanda's upset, but she seems fine by the next movie. The Avengers don't rally behind him, he was just killed off so we would know that the Avengers weren't invincible. Oh, I get it. You're willing to kill off a character that you're introduced in the same movie. Fine, nobody's safe. But had he lived, he would have disapproved of Wanda's relationship with the Vision just like he does in the comics, and this would have created some tension.
It's as I said, catastrophe.
Then Vision could have killed him in the crossfire of Civil War instead of giving us a fake-out Rhodey death. This would have created real divides between the team and added another layer of depth to Wanda and the Vision's relationship. Number 4. Speaking of the Vision, Jarvis went away without any kind of fanfare, didn't he?
You want me to help you put Jarvis into this thing?
No, of course not. I want to help you put Jarvis in this thing.
The AI is one of Tony Stark's greatest creations. Jarvis was right there with Tony at the beginning of the MCU, helping him invent the Mark II Iron Man armor. Tony always regarded the program with respect. And maybe that's because Jarvis was named after Howard Stark's butler. When we first met Tony Stark, he lived for himself and had no sentimentality. Except, his robot personal assistant is named after his childhood butler. So it's likely the real Jarvis helped raise Tony, so he replicated his speech patterns to keep his memory alive. But after Jarvis was placed inside the Vision, we never hear about him again. Jarvis never says goodbye, and the Vision doesn't seem to have any of Jarvis's memories. In fact, the only reason Jarvis became the Vision was so Paul Bettany could play him in the movie.
Gotta be Ultron, and then he should make the Vision, but they should put Jarvis in the Vision, and then Paul Bettany can play the Vision, because only Paul Bettany can play the Vision.
But number 3, the movies have also glossed over Tony's most defining trait, his alcoholism. In the 1970s, the story Demon in a Bottle gave us something shocking, a founding Avenger coping with real-life addictions. Robert Downey Jr. was perfectly cast as Tony Stark, in part because of his own struggles with substance abuse. In the first film, Tony's fondness for drink is established in the very first scene, and he even uses his technical genius to invent a super freezer that maintains his booze at frosty temperatures in the desert heat.
I'll be throwing one of these in with every purchase of 500 million or more. It's a piece.
And in Iron Man 2, he gets completely shit-faced while using his armor for entertainment. This is Pepper and Rhodey's worst fears come to life. What if you took the old Tony Stark and gave him a supersuit? But instead of partying because he's an alcoholic who believes he has no limits, he's just acting out because he's dying. It's a totally solvable problem, unlike alcoholism. Now I get it. These movies are for kids. No 10-year-old wants to see a third act filled with a journey of personal discovery and AA meetings. But these movies have an opportunity to subtly teach kids about substance abuse. For example, the Pleasure Island scenes in Pinocchio are clear. Alcohol and tobacco are gross. But instead of acknowledging this problem, Marvel lives in denial and Tony continues to drink. When he delivers this iconic line,
I have an army.
We have a Hulk.
He's holding a glass of whiskey. It would be nice if Avengers 4, the darkest timeline, shows Tony hitting the bottle to cope with his failures. Number 2, Thanos' introduction. Leading up to Infinity War, the Russo brothers promised that Thanos would be the greatest villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they didn't disappoint. In his first scene, he beats up the Hulk and kills the Avengers' first villain, Loki. But before that, Thanos was pretty lame. We got a cool, no-dialogue post-credits tease just informing us that Thanos exists. But then, in Guardians of the Galaxy, we're constantly told that Thanos is a badass.
Thanos is the most powerful being in the universe.
Not anymore.
While all he does is sit on his ass and threaten people. When Ronan double-crosses him, he doesn't do anything about it. The terrible Age of Ultron mid-credits scene makes him sound like a lazy uncle getting up to change the channel.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
We either needed more or less Thanos. Either he only appears as a hologram in Guardians, echoing the Emperor's introduction in The Empire Strikes Back, or let me propose a different in-person introduction. Let's presume that Ronan survived his battle with the Guardians. In the post-credits scene, we cut back to the kiln, where he's locked in super isolated solitary confinement. Staying on Ronan's muzzled face, we hear alarms, blaster fire, screams, explosions. The door at the end of the hallway opens. A shadowy figure silhouetted by smoke enters. He tears through the guards, working his way toward Ronan. Finally, Thanos steps into the light. Without saying a word, he picks up Ronan and literally rips him in half. That's how you can introduce Thanos. And finally, number 1, directors being fired. Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins was originally supposed to direct Thor: The Dark World before leaving due to creative differences. This departure was only disappointing in hindsight, after Dark World turned out to be a turd and Wonder Woman became the best movie in the DCEU. The real letdown was yet to come. Way back in 2006, back when the MCU was a twinkle in Kevin Feige's eye, Marvel announced Edgar Wright would direct an Ant-Man movie. Edgar Wright is a once-in-a-lifetime writer-director who seamlessly blends action with comedy.
Wow. Wow.
I was pumped to see what he'd bring to the growing superhero genre. He screened awesome Ant-Man test footage at San Diego Comic-Con in 2012. Joss Whedon said that his Ant-Man screenplay was the best Marvel script he ever read. Paul Rudd was cast in the lead, and then it didn't happen. Marvel's creative committee changed Wright's script without his consent, and he bolted. We ended up with an Ant-Man franchise that is, best, mostly kind of good. But Edgar Wright leaving was nothing compared to the firing of James Gunn. Gunn delivered one of the best comic book movies ever with Guardians of the Galaxy. He managed to create a signature voice while working within the Marvel machine. He was so synonymous with the Guardians that he even wrote their dialogue in Infinity War.
This is a man. A handsome, muscular man. I'm muscular.
The cast was excited to come together again. Gunn tweeted this photo of the completed script. Production was supposed to start in January, and then he was gone. Disney fired him for really offensive jokes he made several years ago after they resurfaced online. And now, Dave Bautista is signaling he'll break his contract and not reprise the role of Drax, and Guardians 3 is indefinitely on hold. Disney might use Gunn's script, but no other director could ever do justice to these characters. It's over, and that's super disappointing. But what are your biggest Marvel letdowns? Please let me know in the comments below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Arey.